Team Grade 5. Welcome to another edition of Grade 5 Science. My name is Miss Aaliyah Brewster and it's time for us to work. But just in case you're not feeling motivated, remember the words of Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. So grab a pencil and a notebook, get settled, we're about to start. Today's topic is natural and artificial satellites. To begin, we're going to discuss what are satellites. I know the word may seem long, but it's quite simple. You see, a satellite is a small object that orbits or revolves around a larger object in space. Satellites can be natural or artificial. Natural meaning it is not man-made, and artificial meaning it is man-made. All the planets in the solar system except Mercury and Venus have natural satellites. The Earth's moon, you know that big ball that you see in the sky at night, that is one example of a natural satellite. However, artificial satellites are sent into space to gather information. Most are launched into space by rockets. Now let's look at two photographs. The first one is an image of the Earth's moon. That is a natural satellite. On the other hand, this image is projecting an artificial satellite. The name of this satellite is called Sputnik. This satellite was the first satellite that was launched to orbit around the Earth. Now we're going to discuss each type of satellite individually. The first one would be artificial or man-made satellites. Artificial satellites have many purposes. For example, some are used for scientific purposes, which is to collect information about space. The Hubble Space Telescope is a scientific satellite that orbits around the Earth. It sees the sky more clearly than a telescope on the ground. Communication satellites help to send telephone calls, radio and television programs, and computer information all around the world. Airplanes, ships, and cars with special equipment can use this information from the satellite to find their way from place to place. Militaries also use the satellite for spying. That's right. Satellites are also used in weather forecasting too. Here you'll see a photograph of the Hubble Space Telescope, which is the scientific satellite that orbits the Earth. Notice in the photograph, that big glowing ball, that's our planet, that's Earth. Also, there is a special kind of satellite that is used by astronauts, and it is orbiting our Earth. The name of this satellite is called the International Space Station. Astronauts can live on the space station for months while they gather information and do experiments. There are two photographs. The first is depicting the International Space Station orbiting our Earth. The second image is depicting astronauts inside of the International Space Station. So that's what it looks like. Do you know that outside of Earth there is zero gravity, meaning you can float? It's quite amazing. Research it. Now let's move on to discuss natural satellites. And to do this, we're going to look at our moon. The moon is a large natural object that orbits or travels around the Earth. After the sun, it is the brightest object in the sky. The average distance between the moon and Earth is about 233,900 miles. Compared to the distance between other planets and Earth, this distance is small. In fact, the moon is close enough to affect the level of seas on Earth. Every day, the sea seems to rise and fall. But before we dive into that, let's discuss the appearance of the moon. The moon is a dusty ball of rock measuring roughly a quarter of the size of Earth. Its surface is home to mountains, huge craters, and flat plains called seas, made of hardened lava. It takes 27.3 days for the moon to travel all the way around the Earth and complete its orbit. Although the moon shines bright in the sky, it does not produce its own light. We see the moon because it reflects the light from the sun. Now let's discuss the phases of the moon. Have you ever noticed how the moon appears to change its shape each night? That's because as the moon orbits the Earth, the sun lights up different parts of its surface. So it's just our view of the moon that's changing, not actually the moon itself. It takes the moon 29.5 days to go through 8 different phases. This is called a lunar month. When the moon appears to be getting bigger, it's waxing. And when it looks like it's getting smaller, it's waning. Once the face of the moon is fully turned towards the sun, it is a full moon, and we see all of its surface. But as the moon moves around the Earth, the face pointing towards us gradually becomes hidden from the sun until we can hardly see it at all. This is called a new moon. Here you'll see a photograph that summarizes the various phases of the moon. So when the moon is waxing, it is growing. So the growing stage begins from the new moon, where we don't see the moon at all, and then it moves into the crescent phase, the first quarter phase, the gibbous phase, and then finally it goes into the waning phase, which is the full moon, another gibbous, the last quarter, and the crescent. So those are the 8 phases of the moon. Before we conclude today's lesson, let's look at a person of interest. Today we'll be zooming in on Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong was the first human to walk on the moon. That's right, the first human to walk on the moon. This occurred during NASA's Apollo 11 mission. It happened on the 20th of July, year 1969. When Neil was a child growing up in rural America, he loved to learn all about airplanes and space. He got his student pilot's license when he was just age 16, before he even learned to drive a car. However, who could have foreseen that Neil would become the first man to walk on the moon? On that day, there were 500 million of people watching Neil as he walked on the moon. When Neil stepped foot on the moon for the first time, he said the now famous line, "That's one small step for man, but one giant leap for mankind." Not only were Neil and Buzz the first human to step foot on the moon, but they were also the first humans to view Earth from the moon's surface. Neil said that while there, he could hold up his thumb and block out the Earth. He said that the moon felt lonely, but that it made him realize just how beautiful our home planet is. When Neil and his co-pilot Buzz were first on the moon, they collected dust materials from the moon's surface to study back on Earth. Boys and girls, like Neil Armstrong, you can become whatever it is you want to be if you just work hard and believe in yourself. That has brought us to the end of another lesson. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.